shimmered with fairy lights strung across the vaulted ceiling, crystal chandeliers catching every sparkle of laughter. My sister Rachel stood at the center of it all during the rehearsal, her white rehearsal dress clinging like she already owned the world. Her lips curled into a smirk when her eyes found me lingering in the back row. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Don't seat her near the front, Rachel announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. She doesn't belong there. A ripple of laughter broke out from the bridesmaids, a cruel symphony disguised as giggles. Some of the groomsmen chuckled too, their eyes flicking over me like I was an uninvited guest who'd somehow wandered in. I felt the sting immediately, like ice water poured down my spine. I lowered my eyes, staring at the floor so no one could see the heat rising in my face. The humiliation pressed down harder than the chandelier light above. I swallowed the lump in my throat, telling myself I'd survived worse. But in that moment, it felt like the ground itself wanted to open and swallow me whole. "Come on, Rach. Don't be harsh," one of the bridesmaids muttered weakly. But the damage was already done. Rachel waved her off like I was nothing more than background noise at her grand rehearsal. And then, just when I thought I could sink no further, a hand landed firmly on my shoulder. Strong, steady, deliberate. I froze. A hush spread through the ballroom like someone had cut the music mid-song. I turned my head slightly, and standing beside me was him. Alexander Pierce, the billionaire nobody expected to show up at a wedding rehearsal like this. His tailored navy suit looked carved to perfection, his presence slicing through the sneers and laughter like a blade. His voice dropped low, yet carried across every corner of the room. "Tell them who you really are now." Every eye was on me. Every laugh died mid-breath. My pulse hammered against my ribs, my throat tightening. My heart caught between dread and a fire I hadn't let burn in years. Rachel's face twisted, the smirk gone. Her perfect rehearsed confidence slipping like a mask that cracked too soon, and for the first time in a long time I lifted my chin. The silence in the ballroom stretched tight, like a rope ready to snap. All eyes stayed locked on me, waiting, daring me to speak. Rachel's smug confidence faltered, her smile twitching as if she suddenly realized she'd lit a fire she couldn't control. Alexander's hand didn't move from my shoulder. His grip wasn't forceful but grounding, solid, a reminder that I didn't have to shrink anymore. Rachel recovered quickly, tossing her curls back with a laugh that tried too hard. "Oh, come on. Are we really doing this? She's just Emily, my sister who's always lurking in the background. Don't make her out to be someone important." The word lurking stabbed sharper than any knife. Some of the guests chuckled nervously, not sure if they should laugh or stay quiet. The groomsmen shifted uncomfortably, their laughter from moments ago now sounding hollow in their throats. Alexander's voice cut through the air like thunder. "Funny," he said evenly, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. "Because from where I stand, it looks like the only person in this room with dignity is her." A murmur rippled through the rehearsal space. My head snapped toward him, my lips parting in disbelief. No one, absolutely no one, had ever stood up for me like that in front of Rachel. Rachel's fiancé, Mark, finally spoke, his brow furrowed. "Look, I don't know what this is about, but maybe we should stick to the rehearsal." "We don't need—" "Sit down," Alexander interrupted, his tone so calm it was terrifying. Mark froze, sinking back into his chair like a scolded child. I felt dozens of eyes drilling into me, some curious, some judgmental, some wide with confusion. My throat went dry. "Emily," Alexander said softly, "for me alone this time. They don't get to define you. You tell them." "Or I will." My chest tightened. My instinct screamed to stay quiet, to fade back into the shadows like always. But something in his eyes, sharp, unrelenting, yet patient, ignited something inside me. A spark. I took a slow breath and stepped forward, the click of my heels echoing louder than the murmurs. My voice trembled at first, but I forced strength into each word. "You've all spent years treating me like I'm nothing," I began, my eyes flicking over Rachel, the bridesmaids, the cousins who had always whispered behind my back. "But maybe that's because you never bothered to see me for who I really am," Rachel scoffed. "And who exactly are you, Emily? You work in some dusty office, you wear secondhand dresses, and you show up where you're barely wanted." "Don't act like you're suddenly somebody," gasp circled the room at her cruelty. But Rachel only lifted her chin higher. Before I could answer, Alexander stepped in closer, his presence looming behind me like a storm at my back. His voice boomed across the room. "She's not just somebody, Rachel. She's the reason half of you even have jobs." The air cracked open. The chandeliers seemed to rattle with the weight of his words. Confusion spread like wildfire. People whispered, leaning toward each other, eyes darting between me and Alexander. Rachel blinked rapidly, her smirk finally gone. "What are you talking about?" I turned to face her fully now, my voice no longer trembling. "I'm not the failure you've painted me as my whole life. I've been working in silence, building, investing, and last month—" My chest rose and fell, adrenaline roaring in my veins. "Last month, I became the majority shareholder of the very company you brag about to your friends." "Rachel!" The room erupted, shocked gasps, hushed voices, a few hands covering mouths in disbelief. Rachel stumbled back a step, her face draining of color. "You're lying. That's impossible." Alexander's lips curved into the faintest smirk. "I should know. I was the one who sold her the final shares." The room froze again. Even the air felt different, thicker, charged, alive with scandal. Rachel's fiancé muttered something under his breath, but Rachel shot him a glare that silenced him immediately. I let the silence hang, letting every single person absorb what they had just heard. For the first time in years, I didn't lower my eyes. I didn't shrink. I met Rachel's stunned gaze, my voice steady, sharp as glass. "So the next time you tell people where I belong, remember this. While you were busy tearing me down, I was busy climbing higher than you ever imagined." The gasps turned into murmurs of approval. A few guests nodded slowly, their eyes darting between me and Alexander like they were seeing us both for the first time. Rachel's face twisted, fury replacing shock. "You think this changes anything? This is my wedding. You'll never be more than a shadow standing in the back." Alexander leaned closer to me, his hand brushing mine in the smallest, most grounding gesture. His voice was low, but it carried to every corner of the ballroom. "Emily, you don't need to stand in the back anymore. Let's show them where you truly belong." Every heart in the room seemed to pound louder, waiting for my next move, and this time, I was ready to deliver it. The room buzzed with disbelief, conversations clashing like 1,000 whispers colliding at once. Rachel's perfect posture broke, her nails digging into the lace of her dress as her voice finally cracked through the noise. "You don't get to walk in here and hijack my moment," she spat, her eyes wild, darting between me and Alexander like she was trying to find a hole in the truth. "This rehearsal is about me, not you. So quit pretending you matter." Alexander's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. He didn't have to. His silence was louder than thunder, daring me to answer for myself. For the first time in my life, I didn't shrink under Rachel's fire. I stepped forward, the heels of my shoes clicking hard against the ballroom floor. Dozens of guests leaned closer, some whispering my name like they were suddenly learning who I was for the very first time. I locked my eyes on Rachel, steady and unblinking. "You're right. This is your rehearsal, and I didn't come here to steal your spotlight." I paused, letting the tension coil tighter before I struck. "But you stole mine a long time ago. You've been smirking, mocking, and tearing me down at every turn because you thought I'd never rise high enough to fight back." Gasps spread across the room. A bridesmaid shifted awkwardly, her hand falling from Rachel's arm as though she wanted no part in this anymore. Rachel laughed sharply, but it was thin, brittle. "You think money makes you better than me? That's all this is, money. Without it, you're still the same pathetic girl standing in my shadow." I straightened, heat surging through my chest, but my voice remained calm, deadly calm. Money didn't change me. Silence did. Every cruel word you threw at me became fuel. Every door you slammed shut, I pried open myself. While you were busy playing perfect daughter, I was out there building something real. Something no one, not even you, can take away. A hush fell over the crowd again. This time no one laughed. Not even the cousins who used to whisper about me behind napkins at dinner. They stared at me like they were seeing someone they'd never met before. Alexander finally stepped forward, his presence shadowing Rachel as much as it shielded me. His eyes locked on her, cold, unreadable. You've embarrassed your own sister in front of your family, your fiancé, and your guests. That alone shows who doesn't belong here. Rachel's lips parted, but no words came out. Her fiancé, Mark, stood abruptly, his face red. All right, enough. This is ridiculous. Emily, billionaire or not, this isn't the time or place. You're making a scene. I turned to him slowly, my voice sharp as glass. She made a scene when she told your ushers not to seat me near the front. She made a scene when she decided my worth could be mocked publicly. I'm just finishing it. The crowd shifted. Some nodded, others exchanged uneasy glances. But the tide was turning. I could feel it. Rachel's hands trembled at her sides. Her smirk was gone, her armor cracked. You'll regret this, she whispered harshly, her voice so low it was almost swallowed by the music humming faintly in the background. I tilted my head. I already regret every year I let you step on me without fighting back. Her eyes flashed with fury, but Alexander stepped closer, his voice a blade in the quiet. She won't be stepping on you anymore. Not now. Not ever. It was then that Rachel snapped. Her hand shot out, grabbing a champagne glass from the nearest table. She didn't throw it, but she slammed it down hard enough that it cracked, liquid splashing across the linen. Gasps rang out. Her fiancé grabbed her wrist before she went further, muttering under his breath for her to calm down. The sight of Rachel unraveling, the golden bride-to-be cracking in front of her guests, wasn't sweet to me. It wasn't satisfying the way I thought it might be. It was tragic, but still I didn't flinch. I turned to the guests, my voice carrying across the hushed room. I never asked for this moment. I didn't come here to outshine my sister. But maybe it's time you all stop pretending that cruelty disguised as humor is acceptable. Maybe it's time you stop letting laughter cover for cruelty. Silence followed. Even the chandeliers seemed to hum with the weight of my words. Alexander touched my arm lightly, steadying me. His eyes flicked toward the door, silently asking if I wanted to walk out, leave the chaos behind. But something in me refused to back down this time. I looked straight at Rachel, whose perfect image was crumbling before everyone's eyes. If you really believe I don't belong here, I said, my voice low, strong, unshaken, then maybe it's you who doesn't belong in my life anymore. The room froze. Rachel's chest heaved, her eyes wide, the words sinking in deeper than any dagger, and with that, I stepped away from her, every gaze following me, every whisper chasing me, but none of them mocking anymore. For once, they weren't laughing. The ballroom no longer belonged to Rachel. The whispers circling through the guests weren't about her dress, her flowers, or her big day. They were about me. My name slipped from lips in disbelief, shock, even admiration. Rachel's chest rose and fell like she was suffocating, her perfect world crumbling in real time. Her bridesmaids kept their distance now, their faces pale with unease. The groomsmen avoided her eyes, suddenly unsure if standing beside her was worth it. You can't do this, Rachel snapped, her voice high and brittle. You can't come in here and ruin everything. This is my moment. Alexander's eyes sharpened, his tone colder than I'd ever heard it. No, Rachel. You ruined it the second you decided to humiliate your sister in front of everyone. Actions have consequences. You just never thought yours would catch up. The guests shifted uncomfortably, some nodding, others whispering behind their hands. Rachel's fiancé, Mark, looked at her with a mix of embarrassment and disappointment. His jaw clenched, his grip on her wrist tight as he muttered, Enough, Rachel. You're embarrassing yourself. She ripped her arm away. Embarrassing myself? She's the one making a fool out of everyone. She thinks money makes her untouchable. Stop. My voice cut clean through hers. I didn't raise it, but the command in it silenced her instantly. This isn't about money. This is about respect. Something you never gave me. I stepped closer, so there was no air left between us. Every eye stayed glued to the scene, no one daring to interrupt. You've spent your whole life tearing me down, Rachel. But here's the truth. You only ever felt big because you thought I was small. The moment I stopped lowering my head, you had nothing left. Her face drained of color, the fury in her eyes flickering into something rawer. Fear. The crowd gasped when Alexander finally moved. Stepping beside me, his presence overwhelming. His voice was calm, controlled, final. Emily doesn't need to prove herself to you anymore. But if you need proof, look around. This entire room just watched you try to destroy her and fail. Rachel's lips trembled. For the first time, her power slipped completely away. I turned slowly, addressing the guests. I don't want your pity. I don't need anyone's approval. But I won't let cruelty pass as entertainment anymore. Not from her. Not from anyone. The words echoed, heavy, undeniable. Some people lowered their heads in shame. Others nodded firmly. I could feel the balance shifting. Rachel no longer the admired bride, but the exposed bully. Mark spoke again, his voice sharp now. Rachel, if this is who you are, humiliating your own sister, lashing out at everyone, maybe I should reconsider walking down that aisle. Gasps erupted. Rachel's knees seemed to buckle, her hand gripping the back of a chair to steady herself. Mark, you can't mean that. But his silence said more than words ever could. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. Instead, I stood taller, the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. For once, I felt free. Rachel's voice broke. You'll regret this, Emily. You'll regret humiliating me. I leaned in just enough for only her to hear. My voice was steady, sharp, final. No. The only thing I regret is giving you the power to humiliate me for so long. That ends tonight. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't stay to watch her crumble. I turned, Alexander falling into step beside me, the entire room parting as we walked toward the exit. Heads bowed, whispers chased us, but no laughter followed. Not anymore. As the heavy doors swung open, Alexander's voice dropped low, only for me. You don't need their validation, Emily, but after tonight, they'll never forget your name. The air outside was crisp, the night sky endless. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I glanced at him, my chest still tight with adrenaline. Why did you step in back there? His eyes softened, the steel in them easing. Because I saw someone worth defending. Someone who didn't realize she already had the power to defend herself. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. Not the polite, forced smile I wore to survive, but a real one. Thank you, I whispered. He shook his head. Don't thank me. You did that on your own. All I did was remind you who you really are. And as we walked away from the glittering ballroom, leaving Rachel and her unraveling world behind, I knew he was right.